Sports Daily, powered by IPEW Local 613.
All right, welcome to Georgia High School Sports Daily. It's Monday. Very interesting weekend, of course, with all the weather last week. It was really crazy with the high schools. Craig Sager, Najee Wilkins on with us. It's going to be an interesting hour, a lot to talk about. Of course, we got our big flag, our Corky Kell Dave Hunter Classic, Flag Classic coming up Wednesday night. That will start at 5:30. We've got 4 games right now. We'll give you any updates on that. We'll also interview Allatoona Flag coach today, Jordan Davis. So just a lot of things. Najee, let's put Najee on. We got to talk about the Alabama-Georgia game a little bit, don't we?
Yeah, I'll just say I think Alabama deserved to win that game. The way they played, it was exciting. And that Ryan Williams play at the end, that was the best play I've ever seen.
Najee, what do you think?
Yeah, that was an incredible game, man. From the Georgia perspective, way to fight through adversity, right? Jalen Miller was unstoppable in the first half. He had like 3 touchdowns, 200 yards through the air, 100 yards on the ground. But credit Kirby Smart and the crew for coming out in the second half, only winning the 3 points up until that touchdown by Ryan Williams and really shutting it down. But shout out to Alabama, man, that resolve. They got all the momentum. They take the lead, and then Ryan Williams comes up big, man. And the crazy part is that kid is only 17 years old, and he is dynamic. I think he's one of the best freshmen in college football.
Well, and the defensive back was a true freshman that got up in the air. I mean, I don't think that was a terrible throw. I think, though, who was the receiver for Georgia there? Do you know which? That's a 6'3". That's the big kid. I think a sophomore. Kobe Young. And what was interesting, I thought about that play was they had tried to do the same thing a couple of plays before that. And Brown had his head turned towards the receiver. They were fortunate that it wasn't a pass interference, and the ball, I think, was overthrown a little bit. On that play, I mean, both guys just got up in the air. And, I mean, if you were to watch that kid after the game, seriously, that kid looks like he's 12 years old. He has got a baby face. But I'm going to tell you what happened, okay? Georgia scores, okay? That sideline, you would have thought they won the game. Okay, the sideline absolutely went crazy. I was watching the highlight of the sideline, and whether Milroe did this purposely or not, okay, I think they caught Georgia off guard a little bit on that first play. I really do. And look, Ryan Williams made a great catch. He made an even better twirled a couple of times, and got to the end zone. But I will tell you this. You know, and I was prepared for the loss because, you know, I was very impressed with what Georgia did in the second half. But what a football game. I mean, just, you know, these two teams are so – you can say what you want about Ohio State. You can say what you want about Texas. Texas has not played an SEC schedule yet. You can say what you want. I mean, Miami, forget it. Penn State, forget it. These two programs are by far the best 2 programs in college football. They're the best coached, okay? They're the best organized, and they have the best players. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I'm not going to try to take anything away from Ohio State. You know, Texas, to me, I'm not a believer until they go through a full SEC schedule. If they can go through a full SEC schedule undefeated, okay, or even with just 1 loss, okay, I'll say. But until that happens, I don't know what you think, but I just don't think there's anything better than Georgia and Alabama.
No, real quick, I agree with you, Najee. I think, you know, that's kind of the probably where it starts. You're not going to get a better contest, I don't think, this year, maybe up into the championship games, because that was back and forth in the second half. You had all the storylines coming into the matchup. It's just great, man. Excuse me. It's just great, man. What they were able to do, and like you said, Texas, they only play Mississippi State. They still got to play through a full schedule. And as you mentioned real quick, AJ, Kentucky upset Ole Miss this past week. So that goes to show you, to your point about the SEC, and it's any given Saturday. You never know who can come out on top.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you what. How would you like to be Auburn this week, headed to Athens? You think you're going to be facing a team that's a little bit upset?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And Auburn blew their game. I mean, look, they had Oklahoma won. They had them beat. And they
you can't throw a pick 6 there.
Yeah. Yeah, at least the coach didn't come out and least he took the blame himself there. But you're right. You can't throw a pick six, and it was crazy. Anyway, let's get to our fast break headlines. We'll start off, like I said, there's some really good matchups today. Our team, Craig to my left, Najee, Max, Hayden, Graham, David, did Casey, your sister, did a fantastic job on Friday night, on Saturday night, and we'll do it again tonight. You can get the scoreboard on scoreatl.com or theajc.com. We'll have recaps tonight. There's some really notable matchups. Jonesboro, Central Carrollton, Benedictine, Alpharetta, Grayson, and Newton play. That should be a really good one. North Clayton, Stevenson, Fitzgerald, Appleton County, Pierce County, Vidalia, Lumpkin County, White County. Milton will play Seconder, and Monday's Mill will play Stars Mill. Any of those really stand out to either of you two guys?
Yes, typically we'd have our rankings out today, but you mentioned a couple of these matchups that will impact the rankings. Jonesboro, Central Carroll, the Grayson Newton game. We'll see if that one's going to still be played. There was that massive chemical spill, so maybe that one will be pushed back again. Gwinnett's called it off. Fitzgerald, Appleton County, that's a huge rivalry. Cross classification, but that is a top 5 matchup. And then Pierce County against Vidalia.
And then Milton's playing today.
Yep, that's right. Milton Seconder, they should win that one, but yeah, that's another one that will impact the rankings.
All right, we have something. You said we have something we can show? Take a look at Westminster and Leavitt. Wow. It's unbelievable. Same thing happened to Leavitt. They both sit right on the river. And let me say this, because I think this is really important. And our prayers and love out to all the people, because there are a lot of people that got hurt by this storm. In Florida, in South Georgia, Georgia Southern is called off school the whole week. I've been told by some good friends that I know that Augusta National was ravaged. There are people that are homeless right now. There's no food. North Carolina, good Lord, the mountain town of Asheville. It's bad out there.
It was rough. And I think what made it so challenging, first of all, Graham put in 17 hours of work on Friday just trying to get everything and get us prepared for the days ahead. But a lot of these, I think the teams saw that their games might be played on Saturday, so they tweeted out from their accounts, we'll be ready to go at 3 o'clock. But maybe they didn't live in the part of town or the part of the county that got devastated. And then they woke up, realized the power was still out, so that's why a lot of them still got canceled, even though they said they were going to play on Saturday. I think that's what happens when you're in like a big county school. Your area might not got impacted as much, but then you wake up, you make some phone calls, and you realize the other side of the town is hurting.
Yeah, and it's a good thing. Our Friday night game, Savannah Christian was supposed to play BT. They could not come up. I'm glad that they didn't come up. So anyway, all right, let's go to the next headline. Lee County snaps Thomas County Central 20-game streak.
Josh, you want to take this?
Yes, sir. So Lee County snapped their streak on Saturday. An incredible game. As you guys know, Thomas County Central was a 6A state champion last year. They won 35-23, getting a trio of interceptions, one of which was returned for a touchdown from senior quarterback Ja'Cory White and 4 rushing scores from junior quarterback Weston Bryant in Lee County's Region 2 opener on Saturday afternoon. The win was Trojan's first over the Yellow Jackets in 3 years, improving their all-time series record to 4-23. Thomas County Central led throughout most of the first half, getting on the board first with a 52-yard field goal from Drew Renaud and answering White's pick 6 with an 83-yard touchdown run by Gary Pringle. So incredible win for Lee County. They continue to prove they're the top team, and they will definitely be moving up in the rankings this week.
Najee, let me ask you a question on Lee County, because I'm sure that a lot of these schools that were in 6A last year but that have dropped down to 5A can't be happy about Milton. But can a Lee County possibly stick with like a team like Milton?
Yeah, I think they could. And the crazy part about that game, Usman Greenbrier was on our Metro Georgia watch list. He held to a season-low 30 yards rushing. So they really won that game through the air. They came in that game with the plan of shutting him down, and they basically did that. So I think that's a testament to Weston Bryant, his improvement as a passer, and their ability to win. So it's going to be tough, but they can play good defense like how they did. And force those turnovers and make it a dogfight against Bowie, they definitely have a shot.
That's a great point. Holding him to 30 yards, that's pretty unheard of.
All right, so we have a cross country.
Yeah, let's go to headline number 3. There's a huge cross-country festival that somehow made it work on Saturday at Darlington. Hundreds of runners and a really strong performance from Hebron Christian. We've been talking about them all year long. The school is so impressive across the board in sports, and it was a great finish for them. The girls came in 3rd place overall. The boys took 4th. Not easy to do. Once again, hundreds of runners. But the top finish for Hebron was Anderson Matthias. He finished 3rd overall, a time of 16 minutes and 47 seconds. The Hebron Christian girls were led by Louis Jones, who was 7th overall with a 21:11. So there was some cross country that was able to get in this week. So good for Darlington hosting that event.
And then, Naj, we got the flag.
Yes, sir. Number 4, you got Coach flag. That's kicking off this week, guys. So stay tuned for that. Greenbrier, Allatoona is going to take on each other at 5:30. Loganville versus Blessed Trinity at 6:30 p.m. Norfolk Oconee versus Lithia Springs at 7:30 p.m. and McKeitron versus West Forsyth. Remember, guys, to get your tickets to the flag football, right there with that QR code below this upcoming Wednesday. So it's going to be very fun, very exciting. Some great teams, and I know IJ and Greg will have some great interviews coming up.
All right, so I'm going to close out the headlines talking about the Darlington win over Pepperell. It was a heartbreaker. It was maybe more heartbreaking than Georgia's loss. Pepperell was looking for their first win of the season. They were up big 20-7 in this game. They were led by Sam Wooten, who actually was a Darlington transfer to Pepperell. He had a huge second quarter performance, put them up 20-7. Darlington comes back with 5 minutes left, brings it within a score, gets its own onside kick, and then scores the go-ahead touchdown. Pepperell comes all the way back. They have a crazy play where they have a lateral at the end. They think that they're going to line up for a 23-yard game winner at the buzzer. They're so excited. They have a chance to win this after blowing the lead, and the refs ruled that the lateral was a forward pass, and they called game. So a true heartbreaker for Pepperell, a crazy game. I watched the entire thing. I know the fans are a little bummed out. That would have been a huge win, but their season's still alive, but a big win for Darlington, who has
Great, and you watched most of the game.
Yeah, I watched the whole thing. It was very crazy.
All right, coming up, we're going to, we don't have rankings today. We want to hold off on the rankings because we want all the games to get in. So we'll talk about some of the really good games on Saturday and some of the games coming up. You're watching the Georgia High School Sports Daily on the Peachtree Sports Network.
This makes my dad proud. He went through his whole career as an employee. Now I'm the employer, something he didn't achieve.
We are signatory to IBEW and do IBEW people wherever we go, and we feel like we are faster and better than any of our competition.
The advantages of being a signatory contractor is you're trained employees. You have unlimited manpower. It allows me to bid on jobs that I ordinarily would not go after.
Great teams are committed, focused on the details, and work hard to be their best. From practice to games, right down to their gear. Your feelings is a critical part of the game that allows your athletes to showcase their athletic abilities. From sports terms committed to bringing your team innovative sports services with unparalleled performance. We bring a vision, and our team brings it to life.
The Georgia Sheet Metal Gen ATC equips apprentices with the knowledge and skills required to start a rewarding career in the sheet metal industry with programs in HVAC, industrial welding, and testing, adjusting, and balancing. Training is 100% free and allows apprentices to earn as they learn. Journeymen graduate with no student debt and have the potential to earn more than most college graduates. Visit our website to learn more about this opportunity at careersinsheetmetal.com.
You know how to do this? Man, I don't even know. I was flipping burgers last week.
Violation, unsportsmanlike conduct, impersonating a craftsman.
Skilled trade union is a well-trained career pros, not part-time. Construction is a rewarding and lucrative career with advancement potential, but you have to do it the right way with the right training. Learn how you can be a pro. Find your career at GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com.
Georgia High School Sports Daily is brought to you by The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 613. Electrify your career.
All right, IJ Rosenberg, Craig Sager, Najee Wilkins. It's the Georgia High School Sports Daily powered by IBEW 613. Like I said, we will have our rankings. We're going to do our rankings tomorrow probably.
Yep,
We should be able to get them tomorrow. Some news, breaking news. DeKalb County has called off all after-school activities. So there's some games today. I think you said, Stevenson was supposed to play?
Yeah, they're playing. And then I think Gwinnett did too. So, I mean, that Grayson Newton game might be, this is a never-ending week, and they have to play that matchup at some point. But it looks like Gwinnett might go on off too because the wind has shifted directions, and that Corrine fire was pretty incredible.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible. So DeKalb has called it off, so there will be no DeKalb activities, whether it's volleyball, softball, or football. And like Craig said, we don't know what's going to happen with Gwinnett County and Grayson yet. So if we get an update before the end of the show, we'll talk about that. Let's talk a couple about the recaps this weekend. A couple of pretty good games. Cherokee 42-25 over Etowah. Cherokee, a pretty good team. They're now 2-0 in the region, and you never know. I mean,
for sure.
we've seen Cherokee. We've had them in Corky Kell before. Sometimes they can come up with a really good football team.
Yeah, the big question is, are they going to be able to hang around with the North Cobb or Walton? This year, it's clear they are much better than they were last year. The offensive production has been quite incredible. In this one, a 42-25 win over Etowah, and that is Cherokee's biggest rival. So that was a huge game. It's the one that kind of defines the season, whether they're able to beat the Eagles or not. They're 4-2-0 now, and then 2-0 in the region, so a huge win, and drops Etowah to 0-2.
Yeah, and Woodstock beat Creekview 28-21. Of course, we wanted it to go the other way because we've got Creekview Friday night. We'll do that game. Creekview travels to Sprayberry.
It's a very impressive performance. Graham Burmeister, he is the sophomore quarterback for Woodstock. He had a phenomenal performance. There are 3 touchdowns, I think 2 to his brother, who's a senior. So that's pretty cool when you're a sophomore quarterback throwing game winners and go-ahead scores to your senior brother.
And Houston County, I'll tell you, they're a good football team. Win 56-0 over Veterans. That was their first region, Houston County's first region, 2 of the game. They scored 56 points. They, of course, played at Corky. Their quarterback continues to play well, Craig.
Yeah, that offense can light it up. 50 points is very routine to them.
And let's go to Clark Central. I think we've got a highlight or two from that game. Clark Central up in Athens played Appalachia. Of course, Appalachia coming back for the first time this year. Actually first time since the shooting. So we're happy to see them back on the field. They actually played pretty well. Is Najee with us? Najee's with us. Well, there are some of the photos.
And by the way, Clark Central donated all their proceeds for this game to Appalachia. A very classy move for Clark Central.
Yeah, Clark Central wins the game 48-21, but it looks Clark Central's a good team, 4-2 on the season and 2-0 in Region 8. But it looks like Appalachia played pretty well.
Yeah, and then Najee, what do you think just about Clark Central hosting a game, knowing that what Appalachia went through, kind of welcome them back to Georgia high school football?
Yeah, I think it was honorable by them in the gesture they made. They didn't have to do that, but that just shows the kind of community, and culture they have, just to be able to do that and host them and, allow all the proceeds to go, obviously, Appalachia and everything they're dealing with and just went through. So I think it's great on them, and I think it just shows, the great team they have. They have great players, great staff, I think, and a great community as well. So shout out to them.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Appalachia will be looking for its first victory of the season this Friday night. They'll play Jackson County. Another interesting game, Decatur beats Dunwoody 28-14. We will have Decatur on for our high school Hall of Fame game. I think that game's the 26th, if I'm not mistaken, 25th. So we'll have a bunch of the new inductees at that game. Decatur will host state champion Woodward Academy. Decatur's a good football team.
Yeah.
Very excited about us coming in. And Woodward is good, but I don't think they have the same team that they've had the last couple of years.
Woodward's played a more challenging schedule, but Decatur's getting it done. Their defense looks good. it's also cool because we have Decatur guys going into our Hall of Fame, so I think it's deserving for them to get this
Yeah,
opportunity.
Frank Broyles will be going into the Hall of Fame. Of course, Frank, the great coach and athletics director at Arkansas. Also, a lot of people don't remember that Frank Broyles was a great quarterback at Georgia Tech, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we get closer to that event. Dunwoody, though, Najee, I mean, both of us saw Dunwoody play in Corky Kell. They won that game, and I mean, it's fallen apart ever since.
Yeah, it has. I'm very surprised. Matt Burns, we had some really good players that made play. I remember that reverse they had for a touchdown when I was against South Quality. Mike Nash is a really good head coach. The defensive linebacker had a pretty good game, 14 tackles in that first Kell they won the Classic. I just thought it would be a lot better. Kind of shocked, to be honest with you. But I thought they would be kind of moving further along, but they've been struggling.
Yeah, and another shocking game I wanted to point out, it was Perry against New Hampstead. It ended up being an 80-47 game. It took me about 30 minutes just to get a recap. People that were at the game said it was one of the sloppiest football games they have seen in years, and it was very just uncharacteristic, I feel like, for Perry. And keep in mind, Perry's game against East Coweta last week, they took the lead right before the half and then gave up a touchdown on the ensuing kickoff return. So giving up these big plays, having lulls within the game, that's something Kevin Smith has probably been preaching. In this game, though, same sort of deal. They just kept shooting themselves in the foot, but then New Hampstead would do the same. New Hampstead had 6 turnovers. Perry returned 4 of those for touchdowns, and the other 2 got returned all the way to the 5-yard line. So it was just a track meet back and forth. New Hampstead's quarterback, Rashawn Terrell, threw 6 touchdowns, but I think he had 6 interceptions also. In addition to giving up 4 defensive touchdowns, New Hampstead also gave up a kickoff return touchdown. So if you want to read that recap, it's one of the more chaotic games I've seen. And really, I'm kind of disappointed in Perry. This is a team that we saw win the state title this past year, and it's clear that they just aren't preventing the big play. They aren't playing as good as they were last year, so they still have some work to do.
All right, real quick, we're going to go to the Upson Lee Mary Persons game, but before, there's some highlights there. Upson Lee 22, Mary Persons 23 overtimes. Najee, is that an upset?
Yes, because remember, Mary Persons got all the wins kind of vacated, so they needed that one pretty bad. Upson Lee is a decent team. They initially was in our score Atlanta poll, but after losing, I think they lost 2 straight, and it fell to 2 and 3. They really needed that game bad. So I would say yes, it's definitely upset. Mary Persons definitely has the better roster. So for them to pull it out in triple overtime, I think is a testament to how good Upson Lee can be, how dangerous they can be. But that's a tough loss for Mary Persons.
Yeah, I think Najee's a little vindicated on that because he had Upson Lee at number 10. They ended up losing to Sandy Creek. That's not a bad loss at all. And that was actually the first time Upson Lee's ever beaten Mary Persons. They were 0-10. There's a lot of familiarity with the school. The player that was actually ruled ineligible at Mary Persons came from Upson Lee. And then, of course, Upson Lee's coach, Justin Elder, his daughter, Olivia, won homecoming. Yeah, and he's a Mary Persons alum. But it was a big win, and that drops Mary Persons winless now in the region standings. Upson Lee moves to 2-2, and now Mary Persons might miss the playoffs for the first time since 2020.
And real quick, Najee, congratulations. Your Bengals finally got a victory. They beat Carolina. It wasn't easy, though.
No, we got defensive problems, IJ, but I do like our offense. Joe Burrow played well. Jamar chased that incredible 63-yard touchdown. I feel good about the offense. Defense going to get together, though.
And real quick, before we go to break, remember the Braves could not – I don't understand why they didn't pitch Chris Sale yesterday. I mean, why not? You pitch him. You end the season. The guy never loses, okay? Unbelievable. All right, so the Braves play today. We'll talk a little bit before we get off the air on that. We've got a couple of flag coach interviews. This is the Georgia High School Sports Daily, powered every day by IBEW Local Chapter 613.
so. Trying to see, not seeing my video. Yeah, I'll try that really quick. I'm trying to play with the setting real quick. Yeah, I might just need to go outside. I don't get really good service. So, okay. Do you want me to try to go outside? Okay, thank you.
Georgia High School Sports Daily is presented by GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com. Transform your future today. And by Smart Local 85. Sheet metal is a smart move.
All right, welcome back to the Georgia High School Sports Daily, powered by IBEW Chapter 613 or Local 613. We're going to have Jordan Davis on, the Allatoona flag coach, in a second. We don't have Najee. So, Craig, both of us can talk about this. The Braves, all right, so here's the situation today. The Braves will play a doubleheader no matter what. If the Braves win one game, they're in. Okay, they win one game, they get the number 5 seed, they go to San Diego. What's interesting about that, Craig, is they could play 3 games in San Diego. You don't come back. Okay, so the wildcard teams get no home games in the first round. So if they can beat San Diego, they'll stay out there because they'll play the Dodgers. So they've got to win one game. The Mets need to win one game, the doubleheader, to qualify for the postseason. In that situation, if they just win one game, the Braves win one game, the Mets win one game, the Mets would be number 6. Braves have the tiebreaker over the Mets, and they would play the Brewers. So they would go to Milwaukee and play 2 out of 3 there. The only way Arizona can get in is if either the Braves sweep or the Mets sweep. All right. Now, what's interesting, and we'll get to the coach in 1 second about this, Craig, is let's just say the Braves win game 1. They're in. They're going to be very careful in game 2. I went through this as a beat writer, having to go through those type games where teams, they don't need to play. They've already clinched a spot, but they've still got to put out a competitive. You still got to put out a competitive team. What's going to happen is if Braves lose the first game, Craig, Chris Sale's going to have to pitch that second game.
Very interesting. Yeah. So what you're saying is whoever wins game 1, expect them to.
They're in. But but it's hard. Well, and you know what? When you're a manager, okay, you got to be careful with that because you don't want to just throw anybody out there. But and the other thing is that you've got 2 wildcard teams. You've been using your pitching. You've also got to be careful with that and the bullpen and everything. But you still got to get through 9 innings. All right, so we got the Braves. Let's go on and bring on Jordan Davis, the Allatoona coach, flag football coach. Of course, we've got them coming up Wednesday, playing in the Porky Cal Dave Hunter Flag Classic. Coach, how you doing?
Doing good. How are y'all today?
Are your ladies ready to go?
Well, we better be if we're not. Just with everything last weekend and just prayers for everybody that's been just impacted by the devastation.
Yeah, how did y'all's area? Are y'all okay up there?
We were on the luckier side of the state. I think we got some rain and some wind, but no significant damage. But yeah, I know that like over where Greenbrier's from, I mean, our opponent, that side of the state, there's been a lot that's going on. So just praying for anybody that's got anything that they're having to deal with with that.
And I know they appreciate that. Coach, tell us your background a little bit and how you got into flag coaching.
Just a little bit with me. I grew up as a football player. Went to McEachern High School.
Did you play for Jimmy Dorsey?
I did play for
Hey,
Jimmy
real
Dorsey.
quick, do you know that this Thursday night they're going to be naming the field at McEachern Jimmy Dorsey Field?
I did. I saw that on Facebook the other day, and I'm long overdue, man. He just a legend, just great coach. Ran a program as good as anybody I've ever seen. So,
But as far as getting in the flag, I'm sorry for interrupting.
yeah, it's all good. Just growing up, playing football, having that background, and just starting out, my coaching career wasn't football. And when I had kids, they started out getting into flag football before they got into tackle and just coaching their teams recreationally and all that. And then when Allatoona had this spot open up, I just kind of put my name in there, like, hey, has anybody shown any interest? And just really glad I did. It's been a blast. It's been so much more fun than I could have ever imagined.
Well, and you know what I see, and we're taking a big step into flag football here at Score Atlanta and Corky Kell. It's just, I think it tells you a little bit, Coach, about why this game is so loved. On the boys' side, and now you see the girls' side. We did a 7-on-7 for the girls this year. McEachern ended up winning it. I think what's cool about it's just different. Girls or ladies. I don't know what to call them because they're still in high school. But at the same time, they get excited. Their spirit's much different. I got to imagine for a coach, it's a heck of a lot easier dealing with a flag team than a football team.
Well, and one of the things I really like about it, too, is that they don't have a lot of bad habits when they get to us that they've developed through playing for somebody else for years. So they take our coaching really well. They listen, and they do the things that we ask them to do, which is really good. And they're very, like you were saying, they're very coachable, and they're just like, they have a hunger for learning the game, and they're just very excited about the opportunity to play.
Coach, tell us about your season last year.
We had a really good team. We were very senior experienced, and it was one of those that had just set up. We knew at the beginning of the season that we should have been pretty good, and it turns out we had a pretty good year and came down just 1 point short in the finals. And just there's a lot of positives and a lot of good memories from that experience getting to play down there, but it also just kind of hurts a little bit to know that we were right there, and kind of just leads us to more motivation to try to, like, what do we need to do to get back to that level, but not just get there, but what do we got to do to get over the hump and finish it out where we come on top in those situations.
And Coach, you're going to be playing a fantastic Greenbrier team that was able to get it done last year. I think they returned their quarterback. She's been putting up big numbers. So what about this opponent do you think is going to help you guys prepare?
They are a very experienced team. They are bringing back, I think, 6 of their 7 offensive starters. They have weapons all over the field, really good receivers. When they have a quarterback that's been through it like that with the experience that she has, they are going to be very difficult to stop on offense. And most of the teams they played last year, they had no problem scoring points, and they played a pretty difficult schedule as well. So I know they're going to be well coached. From what I've seen on them, they don't make a lot of mistakes. They make a lot of plays, and they just very fundamental with what they do. And then on top of that, they do have athletes, which makes it hard to match up with them if they're not going to make a lot of mistakes, and they have a lot of players that can go make plays too.
I mean, Coach, as the sport grows, what is exciting just when your team gets to go on like a road trip and maybe play a team, obviously Greenbrier, this one's at a neutral site, but kind of exploring the state and playing some of these up-and-coming programs?
It's been a lot of fun. We've been lucky with some of the opportunities that we've had. We've had to go play in the Falcons training facility and the indoor facility a couple of years ago, playing in Mercedes-Benz last year. Just a lot of these venues that we've gone. I mean, it's been really fun for our girls to get those experiences and those opportunities. And it's, quite frankly, it's like a lot of opportunities that the boys at our school won't get just because of how good we've been. So it's been a lot of fun, and they've loved the experience of getting to go all over the place to do this.
We're talking to Allatoona Flag Football coach Jordan Davis. Before we go to break, I got a prediction. I want you to tell me what you think. 10 years from now, okay, flag football will be a big sport at the Division I level. And last Saturday night, when Georgia went to Alabama, I feel like what will happen with flag football is Georgia's flag team will will travel to Tuscaloosa. That game will be played earlier in the day, which those people get to the stadium so early. The question is, why not? What do you think about something like that?
Oh, I definitely think that it's growing rapidly to that point where in 10 years it will be a major D1 sport. And everybody that I've ever talked to about it when they come to watch and everything, it's a fun sport to watch too. So I'm on board with that. I think that, you play this game in an SEC stadium. I think you would have a huge crowd there, especially if you pair it up with something like that. That would be a lot of fun, especially for all the players involved too.
Well, Coach, we appreciate you coming on. Coach Davis, we'll get to see you Wednesday night. Good luck with everything and look forward to meeting you.
Thank you guys for the opportunity.
Thanks, Coach. Coach Jordan Davis, head football coach, Allatoona Flag Football. We've got our buddy Todd Holcomb coming up on the Georgia High School Sports Daily.
A journeyman will go 85. When you turn out, you can be hitting six figures.
Hey, I have your back, you have my back. We're going to do this together. We're one for all for one.
College just wasn't for me. Let's look into actual career jobs that want to take college where I lose money and all that. Instead of losing a lot more money at the end, why not make money and make more money at the end?
What happens after you graduate? Will you go to the next level? People have to battle in the heat of the battle. Will you still train like a champion in pursuit of greatness? You will when you become an IBEW electrician. Join our team. Visit IBEW613.org.
Dang, where you get this car?
You need to join the union.
The union?
Absolutely. So we get Saturdays.
Union construction workers earn the highest wages with the best benefits and the most protection in the construction industry. Find your career in construction. Go to GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com and start your future today. The Mechanical Trades Institute is an opportunity towards personal financial freedom through hands-on and rewarding work. Our school is completely free and gives apprentices the knowledge and skills required to gain access to a lifelong career path. Apprentices learn pipe fitting, plumbing, mechanical service, and welding. They earn money as they learn and graduate with no student debt. Start a career with the Mechanical Trades Institute and change your financial future.
All right, welcome back to the Georgia High School Sports Daily here on the Peachtree Sports Network. You can also watch us tonight at 11 o'clock as the show will be repeated. A lot of ways to pick up the show. Of course, Peachtree Sports Network is on all the cable systems as well as YouTube TV. You can also watch on over-the-air channel 17.2. Zeem, the big CBS portal, has us on every day, as well as the National Federation High School Network. And one of the best places to get us is on the Atlanta News First app. Of course, Atlanta News First, our CBS affiliate and partner here in Atlanta. We're going to hope to get Todd Holcomb on from the Georgia State High School Football Daily in a few minutes. Did want to bring up a couple of things. Big win for the Falcons yesterday. It was good to see them break out. Koo, he's amazing.
He is.
Kickers are so good in the NFL.
It's unbelievable. And it's funny, if you look back at like 10, 15 years ago, if a kicker had 12 field goals in the season, that was considered pretty average. These guys are being relied on so much, and Koo's unbelievable.
He really is. And that was a big win for the Falcons. Of course, they now go to 2-2. They'll play Thursday night here against Tampa Bay and Baker Mayfield, which is an opportunity to get that record to 3-2. And if they can win that game, they'll be first in the division. So we'll talk a little bit about what's going on in the Georgia High School Football Daily, some of the upsets this weekend. I want to get to a story that Todd did. I'm going to wait to see if we can get him on. Right now, the Georgia High School Association is considering postponing football playoffs 1 week because of the storm. I think they're going to do it. The reason they can do it is because they have built in that week in the playoffs They have that extra week before the state championships. So they don't have to really move anything. They don't have to push anything else back, but they can, the playoffs will all be pushed back a week, but the state championships, Craig, will stay on the same day.
Yeah, so that built-in week already comes in between the quarterfinals and the semis, and that was, of course, a response to Georgia and Georgia Tech scheduling their game on Black Friday, a Friday night football game. But I want to talk about just one more upset this week that I thought was a pretty big deal was Gordon Lee over Chattooga. That's one of the undefeated teams we saw go down. It was just a huge victory for them. Gordon Lee was coming off a really tough loss the previous week to Brantley County, and so that one, they were a 5-point underdog. Chattooga's been the leading rushing team in the state this year, so it's a huge win. And you can see that in the segment for Saturday. So,
all right, let's bring in Todd Holcomb. We've got him from the Georgia High School Football Daily. Of course, you can get that every morning. It is free. Todd will tell you how to get it in a few minutes. Todd, big story this morning has to be the GHSA considering postponing the playoffs a week. Now, I told everybody that could be done because they put that extra week before the state championships. But talk a little bit about the story you wrote this morning for the AJC.
Yeah, there were a lot of people from the different schools kind of requesting that, so it just made me figure that the GHSA has to be thinking about it. So I gave Tim Scott a call this morning. He confirmed that they're considering it. He didn't confirm that they're going to do it, but he said, but it sounds like there's a very good chance of it. And you're right, it's because of the playoffs. Normally it's 5 rounds in 5 weeks. This year there were 6 weeks to play the 5 games. And it's really just kind of a fluke of the schedule because it was going to be 5 playoff rounds, 5 weeks. But it turns out that the availability of the Mercedes-Benz Stadium championship games was a week later. So they had that open week. So yeah, long story short, they can move it back pretty easily and just have that extra week for the regular season to get in all these games that haven't been played. I mean, we're counting up about 45 games that have been postponed beyond this week. And about 20 of those, or 25, are postponed indefinitely because they don't have the time to replay them that wouldn't cause them to play 2 games in 1 week because these two opponents may not have an off week that corresponds with each other. So it's kind of it just puts a lot of burden on the schools. And then there's so many school systems in schools right now that are closed this week. Yeah. Which makes some games this week possibly not playable.
And Todd, we're talking to Todd Holcomb with the Georgia High School Football Daily. Comes out every morning. Let's talk about the coffee situation. I think, Todd, what it comes down to is people have no idea how much destruction this did. We were very fortunate in Atlanta that the storm at the last minute turned east. And, but it nailed Augusta. It nailed that whole eastern corridor of the state, as well as North Carolina. And, of course, what happened in Florida was terrible. But you bring up the point about Coffee County because they're playing tonight, correct? I think they...
Right, they had their game last week. They were playing Northside Warner Robins, and it was postponed until Monday, and they're deciding to play it. Their own field is damaged. The scoreboard has been torn in half. The goalposts are bent. This is according to a friend of mine down there, Stanley Lott, who does a Coffee County sports radio show that talks a lot about football and sports down there, and he was letting me know about that. He said 80% of the homes in the county have wind or tree damage, and a lot of people still don't have electricity, but they can't play the game at there. It was originally going to be at Coffee. They can't play it there, so they go up and play Northside and Warner Robins. And then they're going to turn around and play Lee County on Friday night in Leesburg. Of course, Lee County ranked number 2. Coffee's undefeated. Gotta give a lot of credit to Coffee and the football team for the grit that they have to want to endure that schedule. I mean, I think part of it maybe is just healing, just trying to be as normal as they can through just a hectic, unbelievable, week. I mean, head coach Mike Coe had a tree hit his house and put a hole in the roof. I mean, and then Stanley Lott was telling me that the team is just going around to every player's home just to make just like, let's don't postpone everything. Let's address the football team. Let's see if we can make this happen and stay together. And that's what they're trying to do.
And Todd, I think that's why I think he makes a decision to push it back to take some pressure, Todd, off some of these schools. I mean, like you said, there are a lot of schools that are they're not playing. And I understand, doing it for the healing process. But if you give these teams an extra week to do this, you might see some people decide, hey, instead of playing tonight or whenever, trying to, to move very quickly with this. I mean, look, football is important, but it's secondary compared to, what's happened throughout the state as far as people's homes, people's property, and the high schools as well. I mean, you pointed out, I'll tell you, I don't know what bends a goalpost, but it must have been something pretty strong.
Yeah, I don't understand that either. That's amazing. And you make a great point. It does take a lot of pressure off the schools if they have that extra week. And as Dr. Scott pointed out, it's not just football. That's the thing that people are most interested in and gets the most attention. But there's 5 other sports going on: volleyball, cross country, softball, cheerleading, flag football, and all that. So there's a lot of decisions have to be made to alter those schedules.
And real quickly before I let you go, I want to talk about 2 quick things. You talked to Lovett's Mike Muschamp. That was your 4 questions today. I saw a picture of their field in Westminster. I mean, it was unbelievable. I mean, you could go swimming.
It truly was. I mean, I think at Lovett, they call it on the riverbank. It's on the Chattahoochee, and sometimes they'll just kind of casually call their football field or the campus is on the riverbank tonight. This and that is happening or whatever. But it's kind of like the river was angry, and it was off of Westminster and Lovett. They're pretty close together. And they got hammered. And of course, Coach Muschamp said that the water's receded and the damage is done there, but it's off within the standing water now. But yeah, it's happened before, maybe 15 years ago, so it's not unprecedented. But yeah, it was hard to imagine that they could be able to possibly recover as quickly as they may.
And Todd, your spotlight today for the Georgia High School Football Hall of Fame, which is coming up at the end of the month. Robert Levette, I'll tell you a quick story about Robert. My first year at Alabama, 1981, ranked number 1 in the country. We come to Georgia Tech. Levette, as a freshman, just goes nuts, runs all over us. We end up losing that game 24-21. And then, of course, Georgia Tech lost. Todd, I think Georgia Tech lost the rest of their games.
That's right.
Yeah. But they beat the number 1 team in the country.
Yeah, that has to be unprecedented. Can't imagine that would ever happen.
Todd, tell us how everybody can pick up your newsletter in the morning.
Hey, find us online, Georgia High School Football Daily. We have a nice website, but remember that our e-newsletter is the best thing you want. It comes every morning. It's free, and there's a sign-up link on our website, Georgia High School Football Daily.
And Todd, real quickly, people that are interested in history, you've done a fabulous job on the historian site. Tell everybody how they can get to that one as well.
Yeah, I'm going to have to suggest the Google route again, Georgia High School Football Historians Association. You can find all the scores of every team going back past 100 years. It's the best history research site on high school football that there is.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, if you're a big high school football fan and you got a couple of hours, it's just cool. I mean, he talks about the scores, but the coaches, the all-state players, and everything. I mean, it's incredible. Todd, we appreciate it. I know it's been a crazy weekend. We'll talk to you this week, okay?
Hey, thanks, Sanjay.
Thanks, Todd. Todd Holcomb, Georgia High School Football Daily. We'll be right back. You're watching the Georgia High School Sports Daily on Peachtree TV.
but I don't know if you can, I don't know if it'll work on my school computer. Oh, there it is. Okay, sounds good. O'Mara, yeah.
All right, welcome everybody back to the Georgia High School Sports Daily. We're here Monday through Friday. You can also watch us. We do a repeat every day at 11 o'clock. We are powered by IBEW Local 613. Real quickly before we go to the North Oconee Flag Coach, there are more games that are being canceled today. And I think that has to do with the fact that the GHSA could push the schedule back a week. And so instead of some of these teams just having to drive in today and get all this stuff done, a lot of schools are not in session. I think that's one of the reasons. Keep up with all the games and the changes at scoreatl.com and also the AJC.com. We put all our information on both of those. All right, let's go to Nicole O'Mara. She is the North Oconee Flag Coach. Coach, how you doing?
Good, how about you guys?
Good, good. So, good football team. We're going to have a good North Oconee's got a hell of a football team this year. We're going to have a good flag team up there?
Yeah, we're hoping.
Tell us how you got into it. How did you get into flag coaching?
So I've worked with Jay Lasley, who was the former coach for several years as a teacher at North Oconee. Excuse me, he coached my son in baseball, and he needed an assistant coach last year. And he said, hey, would you like to do it? And I was like, sure. Like, you know, this is kind of the sport that I would have played in high school had it been around when I was in high school 20 years ago. And so I just kind of got into it that way, and I really fell in love with the sport. I fell in love with working with the girls. I've coached swim, both boys and girls in the past, and that's just a different dynamic. There's not that big team dynamic. So that was a really easy transition for me. I really liked working with the girls, and then last year when Jay left to join the Miami Marlins organization, it was just kind of a seamless transition for me to take over from there.
Talk a little bit about your season, what you guys are coming off of.
We had a really good season. It was our second year. We did not anticipate the success that we had. You know, if you would have asked me, actually when I started coaching, so winter is swim season, and so Jay was like, hey, you know, like, it'll only be a couple weeks overlap, like, we'll be done in November, like, not a big deal. And I was like, yeah, not a problem. And then, you know, we get into December, and we're playing for the state championship. We would not have ever realized at the start of last season that it would have gone the way that it went. It was kind of one of those just perfect situations. We had great girls. We had a great team atmosphere, and we had great coaches on both sides, offensively and defensively, to help us out and just kind of make it work. And I'm lucky enough to continue on with those coaches this year, helping us kind of continue on what we did. And we're coming off a really good summer as well. We had four scrimmages, and we were able to have success this summer, and so we're just kind of building on that success from last year and then onto this from this summer. We're really excited to see what this season does for both our JV and our varsity teams.
And Coach, you talked about maybe overachieving a little bit last year, having that big run, but this year you're going to be loaded with juniors. You only have 4 seniors, so what's going to be fun just having kind of a younger group of team where it's almost like, yeah, you guys can achieve big things this year, but this is also an opportunity to really have a special run these next couple of years.
Definitely. It's kind of weird. We only have the 4 seniors, and then if you just kind of look at our roster as a whole, we actually only have 4 sophomores. The majority of both of my teams, majority of just my overall roster is juniors and freshmen. So that's going to be really good to see the next few years how that plays out. I do expect big things from my seniors, but my juniors played just as important of a role last year in the success as sophomores. So I think that they'll really push the envelope this year. And then we've got some really outstanding freshmen that will take the helm and just kind of lead us for the next 4 years.
Well, Coach, we want to thank you for coming on. We look forward to seeing you on Wednesday. And,
thank you.
Thanks again. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. That was North Oconee Flag Football coach Nicole O'Meara. Went in the program this way. We lost a good one, Craig. Dikembe Mutombo, not only a great basketball player for the Atlanta Hawks and other teams, but really a just a neat person.
Yes, he was.
Did a lot for a lot of
Anytime he
people.
would show up to a Hawks game, he's so beloved by the fans, sign autographs, take pictures, and was in a lot of really funny commercials.
Yeah. All right, we're going to end it. We're going to miss you, Dikembe. We'll be back tomorrow. And, of course, you can watch tonight at 11 o'clock. But this is the Georgia High School Sports Daily, powered by IBEW Local 613. Make sure to check us out again tomorrow. And also check all the updates out at scoreatl.com.
Beginning the morning to open your eyes, we spend every waking moment preparing you for the day you'd leave our nest. Whether it's driving to practice or helping with homework, it's all prepared you for, what am I going to be when I grow up? Will you be ready?
After much thought, I made my decision to take my talents to the IBEW Local 613.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers is not simply a job, it's a career. Visit IBEW613.org to begin a new future